Hey guys, what is up? It is your friendly neighborhood Uboos here, back again with another Isaac Breaking Run. This time we're going to start with technology. And I want to talk to you guys about my experience at traffic court. I commented on it in yesterday's episode, but I didn't really talk about it. So, let me begin here. Alright. Basically, I got in a car crash. It was not my fault at all. I was sitting at a red light waiting, and the guy sped through the intersection while he had a yellow. There was a car trying to turn left going the opposite direction to him, and that the car that was trying to turn left was a Comcast like service truck, and you know, he swerved to avoid a head-on collision and slid right into me, right? Easy peasy. Nothing weird about that at all. He got 2 citations, one of which for, you know, that situation, the failure to control vehicle or driving too fast for conditions or whatever the fuck the legal mumbo jumbo is for that thing. That was one, and then the other was driving without proof of insurance. So 2 citations, whatever. Thought it was done. Had to go through this entire stupid insurance process with his insurance company, who were dicks, and it was awful. And then our insurance company was like, yo, I got your back, fam. And then I said, don't say fam, it bothers me, it triggers me, in fact. And then they said, alright, no problem, fam. And then I, of course, had, I disassociated. But, anyway, then I thought it was all done, because our insurance company had figured it out, and we'd gotten our car back, which we still have to sort out all the specifics with the repairs to the car, because not quite everything is done yet. I mean, it drives, and that's what I care about. So, anyway, thought it was done, then get a letter in the mail, being like, yo, you gotta show up to traffic court, bruh. And then I'm like, well, fuck, shit. And then I read it more, and it was like, you're a witness. And I'm like, okay. And then, you know, it was like, go here or you risk the case being thrown out, right? And since I don't know fucking any better, right? Like, I don't know how traffic court operates. I've never been. I've never had to go. So, I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going. And, you know, I don't want, like, him to put the blame on the Comcast truck guy, and then, you know, that would just open up an entirely new can of worms. Fuck that shit. So I went, and then I sat in a chair. The timing that his case was supposed to be seen was 1 p.m., which is the first chunk of cases in the day at 1 p.m. And so, you know, I thought, oh, easy peasy. We're gonna, you know, get in there, get out. Everything's gonna be done. So I get there. I sit in a chair. I wait. You know, I don't know if I'm waiting for my name. I don't know if I'm waiting for his name. I don't know what's going on. And then I hear his name get called, and then I see him walk up there, and then he's waiting in line. Because in traffic court, it's not like regular court where it's like a, you know, confined courtroom where everybody who's in it is like part of the trial, I guess. I mean, it's traffic court. It's a giant fucking room with a shitload of chairs, and that's it. I mean, it's an open room with a lot of chairs, and the entirety of the legal process is between the judge and the person, right? And then witnesses if necessary, and that's the part where I come in. I hear my name get called, and I'm like, yeah, I'm here. And then I walk up, and then I stand there for maybe like 10-20 seconds, and you know, I hear the judge going like, you know, you have a citation for driving without proof of insurance. How do you plead? Guilty. And then another for failure to maintain control of vehicle, and then he's like, guilty. And then the the lady who called me up, the lady who's like taking care of the like witness stuff, is like, he pled guilty, you can go. And I'm like, all right, well, I just wasted an hour. what? What the fuck? Why did I get a fucking letter in the mail if he's gonna fucking plead guilty? I don't know. I got real mad. I wasted, you know, an hour. Just straight up wasted. It wasn't like, you know, I was trying to do something and then that something fell through. It literally was, there was no reason for me to be there. And the thing is, right, I started to get the idea that me being there was unnecessary, as they called up other people, and what they do is, if they're calling up witnesses, the person just kind of, they just say, like, is such and such the name of the witness here, or anybody else involved with a car crash with, and then the name of the person who did it or whatever, right? And I noticed that literally never were there people like walking up like, yeah, I was in that crash, here I am. And I was like, oh, okay, well, at least I know for next time to just say fuck it and not show up. Because that sure was a fucking waste of goddamn time. So that was my experience with traffic court. It sucked shit. That is all. It's actually, like, it was very frustrating to me. Because I don't like wasting time. But, whatever. What is done is done. Oh, there's the secret room back there. Okay. I wasn't really paying attention. I'm still not going to be paying attention, so. Right. There was something else I wanted to talk about in this episode. I wanted to actually talk about the latest Vsauce video. I know how cool it is. So everybody understands the whole idea of like, what is it? What is the number that people throw about? It's like the wealthiest 1% of the world owns like 99% of the money or whatever, which is slightly inaccurate. It ends up being, well, it ends up being pretty specific depending on the exact circumstance, the exact context. But anyway, the latest Vsauce video that came out was about this thing called Ziff's Law, I believe. I think it's called Ziff's Law. Ziff is the name of the guy, of course, who came up with it. And it basically revolves around the fact that pretty much if you take almost any data set, right? Not literally every data set, but most data sets, if you take them, and this includes like random, right? And you analyze them, you'll find out that so there's obviously the most common occurring thing, and this is mostly pertaining to words. So for example, with words in spoken language, in English specifically, we use the more than any other word, right? As the most commonly used word in the English language. And it turns out there's a similar word in every language. It's not just English, it's just that the is an English word. And what are you doing? What are you doing? Holy shit. All right. So the interesting thing about it is that the second most common word will actually be used half as much as the most common. And the third most common word will be used a third as much as the most common. And then the fourth, a fourth as much, and etc. And that continues. That trend continues indefinitely. And that is true. Fuck off with the Gurge Jr. Shit. Alright, we're fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, and that trend actually just continues, like, indefinitely. right? So if you were to take, and it's not entirely accurate, but when you normalize it, when you try to actually, you know, take the full data set, right, and attribute a line to it, then you get this thing, right? I'm gonna take this just for the tier to lay down, because that's essentially a tier up. Fuck off. It's enemies, dude. Okay. And it's a really interesting trend that, like I said, it exists in pretty much every data set, where the most common thing, you know, appears a certain amount of times, and then everything that is ranked after it has a direct relationship to it of 1 over its rank, right? And that's Zipf's law. And it's such an interesting thing, because if you actually, if you do it with just randomly typing on a keyboard, simulating random typing on a keyboard, assuming that the spacebar is just as likely as any of the 26 letters, then that trend even continues into number of letters per word, right? And that's you know, an essentially random data set, right? Obviously, it's not actual random, but it's very close to it. Because yeah, so basically one letter words at that point, so it would just be a letter then a space, would be easily the most common, because you know, you have a 1 in 27 to hit a letter, right? Which actually, I think the math breaks down where you have to, like, always hit the letter or whatever. It makes sense. Watch the video. I'm doing a poor job of explaining this, and I wish I wasn't. But, I don't know, it's just such an intriguing thing. And then he brought up the whole 80-20 imbalance, or I guess balance, I don't know. The 80-20 thing, where it is very commonly, for example, with land, people owning land. 20% of people who own land will own 80% of the land available, right? And this is another relationship that's seen all over the place, right? And, like, the fact that we can so distinctly, you know, model these things that in our minds are just very, you know, random, but, like, they all follow this very specific trend is such a unique thing, right? Makes you wonder if there is actual true thought and decision making. I mean, there is, probably. But it is interesting to think about. I mean, I like the idea that, okay, so here's the thing, right? I don't actually have any fucking idea, right, if actual will exists, right? I don't know. That's not a thing I know. That's technically not a thing anybody knows. We feel like we have our own free will, but we don't know, right? It's just a thing that we don't really know. We have no real way of proving it unless we were to, shit, I don't know, somehow create a way that would, like, emulate time travel, I guess? But, like, even then, it's just, I mean, wouldn't we have been, I don't know, it's a weird situation with a lot of weirdness to it. But, I don't know. I've always imagined that when it comes to, like, free will sort of stuff, our decisions are our own, right? However, we were always going to make that decision. which seems to contradict itself. But the thing is, right, our own experience with the decision making is a real thing. It's a real decision that we make, right? However, we were always going to make it. It was always going to be our decision, right? The conclusion was always going to be our decision. But that doesn't make it not our decision, right? Again, it sounds contradictory, but bear with me here. The reason that I say that is because my assumption is that fucking time's on a big old loop, you know? We're just on a giant fucking conveyor belt. And it's like, I don't really have a way to prove it. It was just a thing that I thought up a long time ago, and like, I don't know, it seems to make sense because specifically if you look at the theory of the Big Bang, which some people refuse to accept, but I don't know, it's a pretty well-regarded theory for the creation of our universe. But if you look at it, right, where does that energy come from to trigger the Big Bang? It had to come from somewhere, right? The universe couldn't have literally just suddenly happened, right? Because we understand conservation of mass and conservation of energy, right? So we know that the universe couldn't have just been, you know, it couldn't have just come out of nowhere. Which raises the question, where did all the energy come from to create the Big Bang? Well, came from our universe that we're currently in, right? Easy peasy. Basically, the universe is we're gonna have an apocalyptic event, right? And then the universe will be destroyed. And then some amount of years later, some ridiculously large amount of years later, I'm gonna save the credit card actually. Some ridiculous amount of years later, like some amount that we can't even fathom, years later, all of this energy, all these particles together will assemble themselves in such a fashion that the Big Bang occurs. And, you know, this is actually like a thing in science. Basically, given a large enough stretch of time, a large enough, what's it called? I guess just time frame. Large enough time frame. Any system, any contained system of particles will always reach its starting position given a large enough time frame. And that includes our universe. Every particle in our universe will get back to the point that we are currently at right now with me talking to you through the internet, right? This will happen at some time in the future. Straight up, it just will, right? Given a large enough time frame. And so that is very, I'd say, indicative of the idea that, you know, it's just gonna, the time is just infinity. It just is. So, anyway, that's my thought on the matter. I think it's a very interesting thing to think about for sure. Whether or not it is actually true. But, I don't know, there's a lot of, like, actual science kind of backing this up. It's not like, you know, I'm not trying to claim that I'm a goddamn scientist, because I'm not. But, I will say, with utter certainty, that the whole, you know, particles within a closed system will always return to their starting position. Like, that's true. That's backed in science. Which does mean, right, if that is just a true thing, a true fact of a closed system of particles, then it just 100% confirms that no matter what we do, there'll be some point, some ridiculous amount of years in the future where this exact conversation happens in this exact fashion, you know. So I don't know. Basically, I'm saying we don't have free will, but no, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, it sort of is. I mean, I'm not gonna say like, well, why even try? You know, I'm not gonna be like the kind of guy who takes that situation and like, you know, turns it into, well, why would I try if I don't even have free will? Why would I make the effort? If I don't make the effort, nothing will change. No, like that's not what I mean. Although some people seem to think that's what you mean when you say that we don't. Well, it's not that we don't have free will. I don't know. Saying we don't have free will sounds very not like doomsday-ish, but misguided, I guess. Like it creates these feelings, you know, that don't really describe the actual circumstance, the actual statement and shit. I mean, the other interesting fact about it is, though, that there's a good chance, right, that maybe, even though what we say and what we do has happened an infinite number of times and will continue to happen an infinite number of times, you know, until time ceases to exist, I suppose. Even though that's true, that doesn't mean we don't have free will. And it doesn't mean that every single run-through of our life is going to be exactly the same, right? For example, maybe, maybe even though we're going to do the same things across an infinite time frame, an infinite number of times, in our multiple existences, maybe, just maybe, we also do literally everything else because it's an infinite time frame. Huh? How about that? Doesn't have to be a super negative sort of thing. Maybe in one lifetime, I went to med school and became an incredibly successful doctor. Boy, wouldn't my parents be happy. Maybe that's what I should tell them. I should tell them, in some time frame, an infinite amount of time ago, or in the future, I was a doctor, Mom and Dad. And then they'd be like, oh, that's nice, honey. And then I'd be like, just shut up! You don't know me? It's not a phase, Mom. So I don't know. Again, this is all just kind of like my rambling, and I don't know. I guess just like a collection of my own shower thoughts. But yeah, I mean, it tends to make some amount of sense, I'd say. What was in my item room? Fuck if I know. It's gone forever. But yeah, I do really like, well, okay, and here's something else, by the way. Let me just, before people start commenting on the whole, particles within a system always returning to their starting state or whatever. That's true of literally, like, particles, right? If you try to find that sort of pattern, if you try to define that in a larger scale thing, or a thing with, I guess, rules and stuff, then it becomes a lot harder and you can find a lot of weird sort of things, which actually there was a number file video on, very recently on, God, what was it called? Some dude's ant, right? Like an insect. Ants are insects, right? Yeah, they have 6 legs, right? Yeah. And so basically the idea of it is the ant moves in a very predictable and distinct pattern based on the color square it is on. And, you know, it turns based on the color square it's on. And whenever it passes over a square, it inverts the color of the square. So it follows a very, very simple set of rules, right? I think it's turn right when on a white square, turn left when on a black square, and you can start the grid in pretty much any fashion, right? You can start it all white, you can start it all black, you can start it whatever, right? You can start a checkerboard. Sorry, I'm coughing a lot. You can start it as pretty much literally anything, and no matter what you do, after a certain amount of iterations, this ant will always walk off in a distinct, specific pattern into one of the 4 corners, right? In the direction of a corner. That's it, right? It'll always happen. You cannot stop it. And it'll do that theoretically, you know, infinitely. It'll theoretically never stop that pattern if you were to let it continue going forever. And if it were, you know, a real thing. Fuck off, bloat. I really hate your guts. So in that specific situation, which, reminder, it's not a particle, right? We're not talking about particles in this situation. We're talking about an ant that follows a set of rules. It'll never return to its beginning state. It just literally can't. Even though you'd imagine in your brain that it maybe could, right? Because it's following just this simple pattern. Which, if you do follow a simple repetitive pattern on a lot of things, then it'll return to its beginning state. But when it comes to a distinct set of rules in this circumstance, then it becomes a bit different than just you know, a specific pattern, I guess, because the pattern changes every time it moves onto a different square. But if you take, for example, a Rubik's Cube, right, and you just follow any pattern of turns a ridiculous number of times, you'll always return to the initial state. So if you take a fully solved Rubik's Cube and you do a specific pattern, like let's say, I don't know, R2, U2, LR, F, right? If you just like follow that, right, indefinitely, you'll get back to a solved Rubik's Cube. And if you don't know what I just said, if it sounded like I was speaking Moonspeak to you, it's because I was. It's Rubik's Cube, fucking notation. They basically, it just indicates the surface that you're twisting, and if it's just the surface itself, so in the example of R, then you twist it clockwise. And then if it's R prime, you twist it counterclockwise. Although my brain always fucks up because R and L twist in opposite directions, while R prime and regular L would twist in the same direction. It fucks with my brain. It's difficult for me to grasp. But, you know, if you do that with a Rubik's Cube and you just follow a specific pattern, it'll always return to its start state. I don't know, patterns are a fucking mystical thing. I love patterns. Patterns are sweet. And I know for a fact that you love patterns, you the viewer, and want to know why I know that? Because we're human beings and we love patterns. It's just a fact. We see any set of data, and the first thing we think is, What's the pattern here? Fuck off. Stupid motherfucker. I mean, I've talked about it before, right? Where, let's say we have, for example, in World of Warcraft, there's a chance of an item dropping, right? Let's say the actual chance within the game engine, right? The chance that it is giving the random number generator is, let's say, just easy peasy 50%, okay? So, what we'll do, right, is we're trying to figure out, actually, how about this? Let's say it's 30%. That'll be better. Drop rate's 30%, or how about 33 for a nice, easy number that we like to work with. So, it's a 1/3 drop rate, right? 1 out of 3 for this thing to drop. Yes, please. Yes, please. 1 out of 3 for this thing to drop off of a mob, right? So what we're doing is we're trying to get multiple of this thing. We're trying to get, let's say, 10 of it, right? So in our brains, we'd assume that we would need to kill roughly 30 dudes to get 10 of this, if we were to know that it's the 33% drop rate. However, in our attempt to get this thing to drop, what ends up happening is we get 10 in 20 dudes killed, rather than 30. Well, now, us as humans are like, well, shit, it's a 50% drop rate, right? We got 10 in 20. That's 50% to me. Even though, you know, getting 10 in 20 with a 33% drop rate is still reasonable. It's still well within possibility, right? It's not even that horrifically unlikely. If it were, of course, if we're referring to pseudo-random chance, it's a lot less likely. But if we're just talking about straight random chance, it's perfectly reasonable to get it 50% of the time. But obviously, because we're humans and we see this incredibly small sample size, and we're like, well, I got it literally exactly 50% of the time, so it must be a 50% chance. That's the conclusion we draw. Because we're bad at actual chance, and we're really, really, really good at figuring out patterns, which apparently is like an evolutionary trait to assist us in survival. Sounds about right, I'd say. That sounds fairly accurate. Like if you're I don't know, what's a good example of seeing patterns and, well, seeing small sample sizes and assuming patterns? I don't know what a good example would be. But trust me, it would assist us in survival. Especially because we don't have the usual, like, senses of most animals that are seen as prey often. Oops. Sorry, I was twirling a pen. Well, a Sharpie, I guess. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Not like this. Not like this. Not like this. Not like this. Fuck! Shit, how did I take... Oh my god, it took so long for me to get hit. Oh, I was doing so well. I was really proud of myself for that entire chunk of time, and then I just got hit. I dropped it. I dropped the ball. I got past the ball, just got hurled to me from down court, and I dropped it. I fucking dropped it. So you know how I claim to dislike sports. I actually really like sports. I don't like watching sports. I like playing sports. Like I'm so into playing basketball, playing ultimate frisbee. Soccer I'm like 50-50 on. Soccer's, I don't know. It's a weird one. I do tend to enjoy soccer. It's just that, or sorry, football. But it's just, I don't know. I got problems with the people who play soccer, I guess. Mexicans. No. Stop. Well, South Americans. No, fuck. I don't know. There's like this mentality that I really don't enjoy about soccer. I also haven't like actually played sports in fucking years. Because I don't have like a large group of people to play these sports with. I know I just rerolled Pyromaniac. I know. I know. Also, fuck American football. It's a dumb sport. It's just a dumb sport. I mean, both because I think the general pace of the game is poor, and also it's dumb because the people who play it frequently get head injuries and become dumb in a lot of cases. Or just straight fucking die because of it. That's not uncommon in American football. That's why it's not a good idea to have your sport have like full contact in the rules, you know? And hockey is a lot more excusable, I'd say. Because it's really, I mean, like there is contact that is allowed, I guess, but it's not like football contact, I guess. I don't know, they're fairly similar. But the thing is, in hockey, you don't really hear about people dying of a fucking brain aneurysm 5 years after playing high school hockey. Right? But you hear about that shit in football all the goddamn time. In hockey, it's just, well, if you're not missing a tooth, you're not playing hockey. Which, I'll admit, I'd rather not lose teeth, but... I forgot, it was red poop. But, I mean, it's still better. You're not literally dying. So, I mean, that's good, right? I'd rather lose a tooth than die any day. Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, probably. Probably. Yeah. Well, no, I think, yeah, probably. Okay. I'm sorry. I have nothing else to say. I'm out of steam, man. These Isaac videos do take a lot out of me in order to actually try and keep a solo conversation going. It's fairly difficult. I don't know what this will do. Fuck it. Hop in. It was a mistake. Whoops. This is not, yeah. Alright. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever gotten Dr. Fetus technology, so I didn't know what would happen. Turns out, nothing happens. Well, nothing cool synergistic-wise happens, but you know what does happen is you lose all of your damage and fucking die a horrible death. Oh my god, I'm gonna... Oh, Jesus Christ, I made a mistake, man. Yeah, again, just to reiterate for like an umpteenth time, if you guys have never tried to maintain a solo conversation for the entirety of a like let's play type video, it's fucking hard, man. It really is. Like, some people are just really good at it. I'd consider myself adept at it, but not like really good at it, you know? Like, I'm okay. I can do it, but why are you not swallowing my BAMs? Oh, it's because I have piercing from the death touch. This is okay. No, it's not. Wait, why are you not instantly dying to my explosions? Okay, let's try regular S-bombs then. See if that sorts it out. It seems to be assisting at least slightly. They're not going in the correct directions, but it definitely seems to be doing more damage, so. I think that's the trick as well. It's not just explosions damage them extra, it's specifically your bombs, I believe. Which is weird, because I thought Dr. Fetus would count, but it doesn't seem to. Either that or I'm just, you know, misanalyzing the health bar at the top moving because there's so many goddamn rats in the room. Yeah, maybe that's the case. Pretty much definitely seems that way at this point. Alright, we got this. We got this. Easy. Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright. Shit. This is okay? This is okay? Shouldn't ever hold down the button, even though I really wanted to, because I had the invincibility. Well, maybe I should, actually. That seems not bad. When I have the Polaroid triggered. Not procced, triggered. Remember, there's a very distinct difference between proc and trigger. Proc is always referred to as a random event triggering. If it's not random, it's not a proc. Alright, looks like we got this. Holy shit. This is the Dr. Fetus and Ipecac show. Featuring Dr. Fetus! Yay! Alright. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Hope you were smoking a lot of pot, I guess, for the middle of that episode there. Just roll up a fat doobie and just inhale it, I guess. I don't know. I don't have descriptive words for smoking pot since I don't do it. So, whoops. Anyway, leave a like, subscribe, comment, all the good shit. If you want, I guess. I'm not going to force you. You have your own free will. Or do you? I'm not actually hyperventilating or anything. Don't worry about that. I'm perfectly fine and comfortable. I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.